Thank you so much, Aaron. That's so kind of you. It's just been a real pleasure to be part of the Broken Sleep family, as it were. It's really great to be here. And yeah, well, I was aiming for with Empty Trains for something that was going to be different because I was anticipating, of course, there would be a lot of pandemic poetry. So I started off writing just a couple of poems, which were for the other collection, which I have coming out, which was sort of COVID related. And I thought, actually, this could be its own thing. And the main thing that I wanted was to come up with something where it was about these little minor situations that you find yourself in during the pandemic, sort of rather than something where, I learn at the end that I love my wife all along, because I love her anyway, obviously. So I didn't want it to be something that led to a moral lesson. I mean, it sort of ends at the end of the first lockdown. So, plenty of things happened after the end of Empty Trains. So I wanted it to very much be part of that one particular moment in time, and especially those 3 or 4 months where it was locked down and then it wasn't, or maybe it was. So that was where Empty Trains came from. And of course, seeing the trains going past our flat, because if we look outside, we can just see there's a train line behind the car park and everything, and just these trains going past, and they were still running on time, but with no one in them, which was very odd. Ghost trains. So yeah, I think the first one that I was going to read from the 5 poems I'm going to read was a poem which is called "Colonize the Moon." And this one came from about a month into the pandemic. My wife was on a fixed term contract with her job. And there was the promise, of course, that there was going to be a different job coming up within the same place. And then, of course, there wasn't, because they froze all of their recruitment. And my hours at my job at the time sort of got cut in half, because essentially there wasn't the resources there for it because of COVID. And essentially both of us going through a phase of having all of these meetings with these managers saying, well, don't worry though, make sure that you're looking after your mental health. And you're thinking, how? So it's about that process where everyone's saying, well, don't worry, because, you can do yoga. And it's just very infuriating. So that is the story behind Colonize the Moon, which is his poem. And it goes like this. I'm not redundant, emphatically. A natural end is what I'm going through. The rope has not been cut, but simply reached its tether. So well done. And remember, your mental health is important, even as you become so much non-renewable energy, because here I am, burnt off like coal, choking the sky as June colors over me, blue. I become fossil fuel, the memory of stone, knitting a carapace of history, dropping away into folklore, gone. So this next one I'm going to read, perhaps a lighter one, is, of course, as many of you may recall, at the start of the pandemic, everyone ran out of soap. All the supermarkets, there was no toilet paper, but also there was no soap anywhere. So I ended up getting this stuff which was a lot more expensive, which was called hotel-style soap from Aldi, I think it was. Which was so perfumed that it just flavored your hands entirely for the whole day. And there's this very vivid memory that both me and my wife have of where we're eating pizza once after coming back from somewhere, so we washed our hands thoroughly, and just this pizza just tasting horribly of soap. So that's what this poem is about. This is Ode to March. Shelves whiten empty like I've never seen in the toiletries aisle. Unless it's for a birthday, I don't spend riches on soap. It disinfects, smells okay, I require little more. Now, all that is left is hotel-style soap. Thrice as much in contactless payments, so perfumed that pizza turns to lather on the tongue, skin cracks and creases a micro-Martian landscape. Because that was the other thing, of course, was it didn't have any moisturizing agents in it, and our hands fell to bits. Fun time. So there's lots of TV in the book. I mean, like a lot of people, we watched a lot of TV, especially when both of our jobs were up and we were living on the savings that would have been for our wedding, which of course was postponed. So basically we just sat at home watching TV, and and eating frozen pizzas and things, which sounds like a lot of fun, but it also wasn't at the time because there was no vision of a life beyond that. But one of the things that we watched all the way through was the wonderful show which is on Netflix at the moment, which is Gilmore Girls. Gilmore Girls is just spectacular because nothing bad ever really happens. It's, you know, everything in life is a minor inconvenience. There's quite a lot about privilege in there, but nothing bad really happens to anyone, also partly because it is about privilege. And there's something very comforting about watching that. So I thought that I would write a poem particularly about the first Christmas special. So Stars Hollow, for those of you who haven't watched Gilmore Girls, is the town in Gilmore Girls. I just wanted to try and sort of evoke a sense of this world going on that we were able to tap into a little. First snow, Stars Hollow. A lane dressed for the lonely, Hearts Club band, losing out on time with Rory, forcing fear and loathing in Pemberley before she's locked down too in Hartford. And once a punk rocker, former WWE champ, misnamed a town near me, Hartford West. Max stays over, the first of Lorelei's dates ever to. Clearly not long for this world. She offers Emily an arc in jest. Almost always does she joke to a mother's scowl. And when my wife and I started dating, we sped through this, did the dance to the opening credits, quick quips. Something else that I ended up thinking about, because a lot of Empty Trains is about the smaller spaces in our lives, because we were confined to the small space of our flat and sort of square beyond that, and then that was our world, and we would occasionally go to the supermarket more often. We'd try and get things, you know, delivered in. And when I was writing, I was trying to think about what was happening to some of the other spaces in our lives, and to think beyond that as well. And I was thinking about the National Museum of Wales here in Cardiff, about the mammoth there, which if you press a button, there's this massive model of a mammoth, and sometimes the mammoth moves when you press a button and makes a noise, and it used to scare the shit out of me when I was a child. And I was thinking about what that mammoth was going through during lockdown, and that's how I ended up writing Mammoth by Night. I was thinking about the museum. Mammoth by Night. Night fills natural history even in business hours, as the gallery fears for its visitors. Doors shut, the dust on Perseus' shield, dead skin, like realization of the mammoth, robotic when awakened, otherwise unplugged, button unpressed by scared kids. It doesn't buck, shake its wool and fiberglass trunk, and instead enjoys time with its young, the quiet of a lack of hyenas on a loop and whispers of school trips, a holiday for the museum, lack of echo. And the last one I'm going to read was actually inspired by the point at which, I mean, a lot of us, I don't think, realised quite who Mark Drakeford was until the pandemic, and suddenly it dawned on the people of Wales that there was someone else doing slightly different rules. And of course, this also dawned on quite a lot of English people who maybe came over to Wales at a time when the rules were a little different, where people could gather on the beaches over in England, and technically couldn't in Wales. So there's an influx of people coming over and then, you know, being stopped on the beaches by the police, which seems ludicrous now, but also that was what was going on. And this was an incident which happened in Barmouth, over in Gwynedd. And I actually start with a quotation from this woman who was caught by the police, and there was an article about it because she tweeted about it shortly after she was taken away from the beach by the police. She said, I didn't realise Wales wasn't in England. Fuck you, Wales, you bunch of bastards. Which, you know, lovely. As a Welsh person, it's always nice to read statements like that. So, police approach in Barmouth, walking across sands that will absolve your footprints with a little help from ocean water that soaks boundaries and blurs in these soft patches. And today, the mercury overflows, and Quicksilver's judgment maybe. Or it's just a non-understanding of devolution, how voices share crusts of dirt but alter in the hard heat of summer 2020, and you call on Boris when laws break. Invoke his name like you made down the pub, spell casting open the trap. Nobody has Karened like you have today against a nation of dragons. And that's just a small hint of what you will get in Empty Trains, which I am delighted to have published with Broken Sleep. So thank you again, Aaron, for having me here and for having faith in my work.